So I'm going to show you an example of how I use authentic assessment and personalized learning in my classroom. This is an activity I just did with my 6th grade students. We did a song analysis. We do this about once every quarter. Because I teach in a Catholic school, I can use songs that we sing at Mass from our hymnal. Um, so here's our song analysis worksheet. They both have the same questions that the kids have to answer. So 5 adjectives that describe how you feel when you listen to the song, 3 emotions you feel, the message that's being conveyed, 3 lyrics that are important in conveying the message of the song and how they can personally relate to them. So same questions, however, each student will get a different hymn or a different song. Sometimes I choose the hymn or the song for the students. Sometimes they can pick on their own. With this particular activity, I chose it for them, and I always go off of ability. So let's look at this one first. This one is a little more challenging. So 6th grade student, she's at about an 8th grade reading level. So I knew that she could handle a more challenging song. The song that she had was called Change Our Hearts. Musically, it's complicated, and the message is kind of hidden within the song. So I knew it would take a lot of critical thinking skills, but you can see her answers there. She did a pretty good job with it. She has her 5 adjectives, her emotions, the message that she thinks is being conveyed, the lyrics that she thinks are important, and how she can personally relate to her hymn. If we look at the other one, this student, she's on not an incredibly low reading level, but she's not quite where she should be. So I gave her a more simple song called Were You There? It's very repetitive. Only a few words change. I mean, you can see the first few words are the same in all 6 lyrics. But she still had to answer the same questions, and she did a great job with it. She has her adjectives, emotions, the message, the lyrics, and how she can relate to them. So even though the students had different songs, they are still answering the same questions. So I'm still getting the information that I need from them, and they are applying their learning in their own way at their own ability. All right, I'm here with my friend Addie. She is in 2nd grade, and she's going to show us a little bit about the 5-finger rule. So I have 5 books here that I use in my music class in one way or another, and she's going to find the one that works just right for her, and she's going to tell us why it works right for her and which one is too easy or too hard.
Okay, so the 5-finger rule is when you pick a book and you open it up to a page, and then you read some of the words, and if you get to 5, it's a little too challenging. 4, it's kind of just right. 3 is just right. 2 is sort of easy. 1 is a little bit too easy, and 0 is too easy for you. So the first one is music. So I'm gonna open it up. So first you read something like a quote in the book, you open it up to any page, and then if you get to 5, it's too hard. And I think I already explained that. So I'm gonna start reading one of these. Okay, by his name, so that's 1, because I don't know that word. 2, had 3, a miniature 4, Indian style for his 5. So I read that, and the monkeys play fiddles, and 2, play bass, and 3, they'll land by a camel. So that's 3. So this book is just right. So I'm gonna check this book out.
So these are all the books that I currently have in my music library. I really don't have a lot. It's a small collection, but we have a wonderful library upstairs that I'm always able to check books out of. I have, even though it's a small collection, I have a large variety, and you can see not all of them are music specific. For example, let's see, Where the Wild Things Are. There is really no music in this. There are no songs that go with this. However, I do use this with my younger kids when we're exploring new instruments, new classroom instruments, and we actually give, let me find a page. We give each monster or wild thing its own instrument. So when we read about this guy and we get to this page, we'll pick an instrument that we think matches him. So maybe one of the students think, oh, well, when I see him, I think he would sound like a tambourine. So we would play the tambourine when we get to him. When we see these guys, they'll all have different instruments. Maybe they think that he's an egg shaker and he's a triangle, he's, oh, I don't know, a boom whacker. So we'll play those instruments when we get to them. So again, not music specific, but I always find a way to include a book with music. Along with diversity and mirrored and reflected text, I also like to include some holiday books in my collection. So I have an Easter one right there. I do that one around Easter time too. I have winter, Christmas. What else do I have? I have Halloween over here. And even though these are seasonal, I keep them in my library all year round. I do what's called Workstation Wednesdays. So whichever class I have on Wednesday, I separate them into, I usually have 4 or 5 stations. And one of the stations is silent reading. Now I'll have these books available, and I always check out books from our library that correlate what we're learning about in music. And you know, maybe in the middle of December, someone wants to read a book about Halloween, or maybe around Easter time, someone wants to read about the 12 days of Christmas. I'm not going to deny them what they want to read just because it may not match with the season. This is one of the books that I use when it comes to diversity. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. The only thing that's really diverse about this book is that we have, our main character is a colored boy. There's really no talking about, segregation or how colored people were treated differently than white people. It does take place, I believe, in the 60s, but none of that is mentioned at all. It's all about how a boy finds 2 sticks and he falls in love with music and playing the drums. However, when I read this book, I do this book with kindergarten and 1st grade. Every year that I have done this, there has always been either a boy or a girl in my class who one of the first things they'll say is, oh, this boy looks like me. He has the same colored skin as I do. And even that just in and of itself just makes an impact on the student, because um, like the video said, there's not a lot of books that have characters or families of color. So I think it's really important that as teachers in our library we include books that have families and main characters of color that kids can relate to. This is another book that I use in my classroom when it comes to diversity. It's called Drum Dream Girl. I read this with kindergarten students. And the subtitle, How One Girl's Courage Changed Music. It's all about a girl. She loves music. She loves playing the drums. She loves to go out and listen to music. But because she is a girl, she is unable to fulfill her dream. She's not allowed to go out in public and play the drums. So, as you can see, the drum dream girl had to keep dreaming and drumming alone. So she couldn't drum outside, she couldn't perform for everyone. It was just a dream that she had. Finally, at the end of the book, she has the courage to go out, I think at a restaurant, and she drums in front of people. Girls should always be allowed to play drums. Both girls and boys should feel free to dream. And it just talks about how you should have the courage to go out and do what you want, even though some people might not always agree with this. This picture kind of upsets the kids because you see the girl, all she wants to do is play her instrument. All the boys can play their instruments, but I think this is her father. Dad is not letting her because she is a girl. So along with reading the story, around this time we're learning about percussion instruments. So I'll have them drum along and we'll do some activities with the drums. But always at the end of the book, and it's really funny because it's usually a boy, someone always says, well, why couldn't she drum? Is it just because she was a girl? And then we have a whole conversation about how way back when girls and boys weren't treated equally, and girls couldn't do the same thing that boys could do. And it's really funny that I can have, well, not funny, but interesting that I can have a conversation like this with kindergarten students about how boys and girls should be treated equally, and girls can do anything they want and boys can do anything that they want. So it's more than just music and literacy. It sparks a conversation with them. When it comes to identifying texts worth reading in your classroom, one of the videos talked about whether or not the text sparks a discussion. Now, with my elementary kids, I certainly don't expect, first graders to leave my classroom and be having these in-depth conversations about the books that we're reading in music class. To me, sparking a discussion in my elementary music class means, can I see that they are enjoying themselves when they're reading the book? Are they kind of talking to one another about the book? Are they excited about the book? Are they participating when I ask questions? So I have two books here. We're going on a bear hunt and the wide-mouthed frog. We're going on a bear hunt. That is a winner in my class. My kids love it. The wide-mouthed frog, I actually tried this book out for the first time last year on 3 classes, and the kids were just not having it. So I'm going to start with this one first. And I was personally really disappointed. So the Wide Mouth Frog, it's a pop-up book. I mean, look how cool that is. We talk about all the animals, and we try to find instruments that could possibly imitate the animals in the book. So for the frog, I actually have a frog instrument. It sounds like it's croaking, but then we try to find an instrument that tries to imitate the snapping sound of the crocodile's mouth. We try to find like one that imitates the little pitter patter of the mouse scurrying and the flies buzzing around and things like that. And when we were doing this activity, the kids, I did this with 1st grade last year, and they really weren't enjoying it. The only thing they liked was that I gave them instruments and that they were able to play the instruments. As for the book, they were just not having it. They did not like the book. I do another activity. I think I mentioned this in another video that I put in this project. I use the book Where the Wild Things Are, and they love that. And I think they like that a little more because we're talking about wild things and monsters, so they're not used to seeing them. They know what a mouse looks like, they know what flies look like, they know what a frog looks like. So again, I tried this with 3 classes last year, and with all 3 it was just kind of a flop. So and I still keep this around because I mean I love it. It's a pop-up book, it's really cool, I'm really into it. But if the students aren't enjoying it, then I'm just gonna say, you know what, I'm gonna put this aside, maybe try it again another day, but for now I'm not even gonna bother with it. Going on a bear hunt, there's a song that goes with it, and we do this in the gym. So we practice moving different ways. We pretend like we're moving through tall grass. We pretend like we have to swim through a river. There's one where we have to pretend like when we're stuck in the mud, and they love it. They get to move around a lot. They get to make goofy noises, and then at the end when they come upon the bear, that's so fun for them. We run in place, we try to get away from the bear. They think it's so fun. I think the reason why they like this too is because I'm incorporating a lot of movement. We have to go down to the gym for it because I need a big space for it too. So this is my 3rd year doing this, and after every year, the librarian tells me that the 1st graders will go to her during library and say, do you have We're Going on a Bear Hunt? Or in gym class, they'll say to the teacher, can we do Going on a Bear Hunt? Can we run from the bear? Can we walk through the mud and swim through the river? Stuff like that. So and even parents will come up to me, oh, Aiden came home from school, told me that you read We're Going on a Bear Hunt. He loved that book. He had such a great time. So just little things like that I know the students are enjoying it, makes me want to bring this book back, and I know that it's worth reading in my classroom. In one of the videos that we had to watch, it talked about having mirrored text and window text in your library. So mirrored text meaning that it mirrors the life of the reader. The reader can really identify and relate to the text, while as the windowed text it's like looking into the window of someone else's life. Maybe this has never happened to you before, or you've never heard of it. So I have some examples here. The first, mirrored text. So let's start with these. I have the quiet book and I have the loud book. I use this in kindergarten when we talk about forte and piano, or loud and soft sounds. And I think this would be a mirrored text, because the quiet book, it's very simple, goes through everything that all quiet sounds. So telling others telling secrets, swimming underwater, pretending you're invisible, when you're at the top of the roller coaster and it's about to go down. And once I read this through, all the kids say, oh yeah, I have tried not to hiccup before, and I'm very quiet. When I am at a concert, we do get quiet, or when we're in mass, we do get quiet before the song plays. Loud books, same thing, except with loud noises. So, surprise. Loud. Fire truck day at school loud. They love that one. Home run loud. Dropping your tray at lunch loud. And when I read this, they can say, oh yeah, I've clapped before, I've applauded before, I've spilled something before, it made a loud sound. I fell or I crashed into something loud, so they can really relate to the sounds they make in these books. Winter poems, I use this with 3rd and 4th grade. So we read some of these poems, and I have a whole poem and music lesson. That's a totally different topic for another day, but so winter poems, we read a few of them. So this one, I heard a bird sing in the dark of December, a magical thing and sweet to remember. The one about the moon hangs up at night, her beams are cold and bright, seeing her shadows low, the water's frozen now. So we talk about, have you ever experienced these things in winter before? And I mean, most, if not all of the time, the students say, oh yeah, when it's winter, the sky it does turn gray. It's very quiet. Leaves might fly through the sky. It gets darker. Soon the wind gets bright. It howls. So these are some examples of the books in my personal library that would be mirrored text. As for window text, I have 3 examples here. I have 1 serious one and 2 goofy ones. So I'm going to start with the goofy ones. The Gingerbread Man, I do this with 1st grade, and there's a song involved with this, but we read about, how the gingerbread man comes to life and how his family is chasing him all throughout the town. And I always say to them, have you ever seen a cookie come to life? And they say, no, wow, we haven't seen a cookie come to life. So it's fun for them to read books like this about things that may not happen in real life. With this one, Never Play Music Right Next to the Zoo. It's all about how the orchestra, they're playing instruments while next to the zoo, and a child is dreaming about this happening, but the animals take over, and then they start to play the instruments, and it's just chaotic. And I say, do you think animals can play instruments, or have you ever seen an animal playing an instrument? And they laugh and they say no, but it's just something fun for them to think about and read about. Now for an actual window text, 1-page composer bios, that I print these out, I copy them separately. I use them with my 6th graders when it comes to our music history unit. So let's find, George Gershwin. So when I assign students their composer, this doesn't even cover it. So I'll print out a page of this. There's an interactive website that I use, but again, that's a whole other lesson for a different day. So the reason why this is a window text, for example, in this George Gershwin one, George Gershwin's parents were born in Russia, moved to the United States, settled in New York City. The family moved frequently when George was a child. Some of these kids here may have never experienced moving from house to house, let alone from town to town or state to state, even country to country. So that's just one example. Even right here, so George quit school at age 15, took a job as a pianist for a popular music publisher. Now the kids that I teach, they're in 6th grade, so 10, 11 years old. Even just telling them, could you imagine quitting school when you're 15 to go off and work? They can't even picture that. So it's a nice way to kind of show them how these composers lived, and just gives them a new insight on life. Thank you for viewing my presentation, and I hope that by viewing it you were able to get a little sneak peek into my classroom and to see different ways that I promote and incorporate literacy in the music classroom.